Taking action every day is not easy, and most people know this feeling well. You wake up wanting to do better, wanting to change something, wanting to move forward, yet something inside pulls you back. Some days you feel ready, and other days you feel stuck for reasons you cannot explain. This audiobook was created for those moments. It is made for the person who wants to build a stronger life, but struggles to stay consistent. It is for someone who wants to move with purpose, but keeps getting held back by old habits, doubt, or a heavy sense of hesitation. This journey is about learning how to get yourself to act even when you do not feel motivated. It is about understanding why you avoid important things and how to break that pattern. You will learn how small daily steps can make your life easier, how structure can carry you when emotions fail, and how simple actions create lasting progress. Instead of waiting for the perfect moment, you will train yourself to move now, even if the movement is small. As you listen, you will discover how to design mornings that push you forward, how to cut out distractions that drain your time, how to build discipline through repetition, and how to challenge the beliefs that keep you stuck. You will learn practical tools that you can use immediately, tools that help you stay focused, confident, and steady even on days when life feels heavy. Each chapter will guide you through ideas you can apply right away, giving you real support, not just for today but for every day that follows. You will feel moments of clarity as you recognize your own patterns. You will feel motivated as you imagine the version of yourself who follows through. You will feel encouraged as you learn how simple changes can shift your entire day. And you will feel a growing sense of strength as you understand that action is something you can build, not something you must wait for. If you have ever looked at your goals and felt overwhelmed, this audiobook would help you take the first step. If you have ever promised yourself that tomorrow would be different, this will help you keep that promise. If you are tired of feeling stuck, you will hear practical steps to change that feeling starting today. Stay with this audiobook because what is coming next will show you how to create change in a way that feels real and achievable. You will learn how to move from hesitation to action, from doubt to confidence, and from scattered effort to consistent progress. This is your chance to understand what has been holding you back and finally learn how to move forward with strength, clarity, and control. Chapter 1. Commit to small daily goals and track your progress. Committing to small daily goals and tracking progress is one of the simplest ideas to understand, yet one of the hardest principles to live by with consistency. Many people wake up every day feeling overwhelmed by the distance between where they are and where they want to be. They think about the goals that could change their life, but the gap feels too large to cross. The mind starts to create resistance because the goal feels far, heavy, or complicated. This is where small daily goals become powerful. They remove the weight that makes action difficult. They create structure, clarity, and purpose. They turn vague intentions into something you can immediately execute. When a goal is small, the mind no longer fights it. When a goal is specific, the mind knows exactly what to do. And when a goal is measurable, the mind receives the satisfaction of completion. This is the foundation on which discipline grows. The reason small daily goals matter is simple. People struggle not because they lack ambition, but because their ambition is too large for the amount of discipline they have practiced. A beginner cannot carry the weight of a master. Daily goals reduce the weight until the habit grows strong enough to hold more. This process creates a sense of control. The moment you start breaking life into small, manageable pieces, you stop feeling defeated by how long the journey is. You start focusing on the only thing you can influence today. That sense of ownership slowly develops inner strength. Over time, you begin trusting yourself again. You rebuild confidence by proving with actions that you follow through on what you say. Small daily goals also remove the illusion that transformation requires a dramatic event or sudden moment of change. Real improvement grows like a steady fire fed by small pieces of fuel throughout the day. Each small act becomes a vote for the person you want to become. Each task you finish becomes evidence that your future is shaped in the present moment. People often underestimate the power of one simple completed task. They assume major achievements come from major actions. In reality, major achievements come from small actions repeated without interruption. Consistency compounds, progress multiplies, and what once felt impossible becomes routine. The human mind is designed to resist uncertainty. A large, unstructured goal triggers that resistance because it has no clear entry point. One simple daily goal gives that entry point. It signals to the mind that the first step is manageable. It removes confusion. It removes hesitation. It turns effort into something predictable. You do not need to feel inspired to take a small step. You do not need perfect energy or perfect conditions. You just need willingness. Small daily goals depend on commitment, not emotion. They remind you that discipline is built through action, not motivation. Tracking your progress reinforces this habit. Your brain craves evidence. When you track what you do, you create a visible pattern of success. You begin seeing that your actions matter. You no longer rely on memory to judge your progress, because the record speaks for itself. Tracking also protects you from the illusion that you are working harder than you actually are. Many people underestimate how often they skip tasks or delay responsibilities. A written record keeps you honest. It shows exactly when you showed up and when you avoided the work. This level of honesty can be uncomfortable, but it is necessary for growth. Without tracking, excuses feel reasonable. With tracking, excuses lose power. A simple notebook, a digital list, or a daily card can serve this purpose. You do not need complicated charts. You only need a place where your actions are visible and measurable. Each day should begin with clarity. Each night should end with review. Even a few minutes of reflection can reshape your behavior. The mind grows stronger when it evaluates itself. This reflection creates awareness. Awareness becomes understanding. Understanding becomes improvement. And improvement creates a life that moves forward instead of staying stuck in place. One of the greatest benefits of small daily goals is the sense of momentum they create. When you complete a task, no matter how small, your mind receives a signal that you are capable. That signal influences your next decision. It reduces doubt. It increases willingness. Progress feeds progress. The opposite is also true. When you avoid action, the mind learns hesitation. It becomes more likely to repeat the avoidance. It builds the habit of delay. This is why the first task of the day matters so much. It sets the tone. Completing something early creates motion that carries you through the rest of the day. There is a simple truth that people overlook. A goal that is too big will paralyze you. A goal that is too vague will confuse you. A goal that is too distant will discourage you. But a small goal that is clear and actionable will move you. It does not matter how small it is as long as it creates motion. Small goals build identity. They shape your self-image. They send a message to your mind. You are someone who takes action. Identity is powerful. It influences behavior more than motivation ever will. When you see yourself as someone who acts, you begin acting naturally. Discipline becomes part of your character instead of something you chase. A person who commits to small daily goals begins transforming the way they deal with challenges. Instead of thinking, "This is too hard," they begin thinking, "What is the first step I can take today?" This shift changes everything. Challenges become tasks. Tasks become steps. Steps become progress. You train your mind to look for solutions. You train your emotions to remain steady. You develop the habit of acting even when the path is unclear. This ability separates those who succeed from those who dream without action. Many people believe they fail because they lack motivation. But motivation is unreliable by nature. It rises and falls. It gives energy one day and abandons you the next. Building your life around motivation is unstable. Building your life around small daily commitments is steady. Commitment does not depend on mood. It does not depend on convenience. It depends only on your willingness to honor your word. This is a very stoic way of living. It teaches you to detach from emotion and attach to action. It teaches discipline through repetition. It teaches responsibility through structure. Small daily goals also protect you from burnout. When you aim for massive action every day, your mind and body eventually push back. You crash. Your consistency breaks. You feel frustrated and guilty. But small goals are sustainable. They keep you moving without overwhelming you. They prevent extreme swings. They allow you to grow at a pace you can maintain long enough to see real results. Sustainability is one of the hidden secrets of any long-term transformation. The change that lasts is the change you can continue. To make small goals effective, they must be specific. Work on my health today is vague. Walk for 10 minutes when I wake up is actionable. Be more productive is vague. Complete one important task before checking my phone is actionable. Specific goals give the mind direction. They remove guesswork. They eliminate confusion. Without specificity, discipline becomes inconsistent. With specificity, discipline becomes automatic. Another important element is prioritization. A small goal is powerful only when it addresses something meaningful. Choose tasks that create progress in the areas that matter most. If you want to improve your health, choose goals that support that outcome. If you want to build discipline, choose tasks that challenge your comfort zone. If you want to advance your career, choose tasks that develop skills or momentum. The alignment between your goals and your values strengthens motivation. You move with intention instead of pressure. Tracking progress also reveals patterns that help you understand yourself. You begin seeing which tasks drain you, which tasks energize you, which times of day you perform best, and which environments influence your behavior. This awareness allows you to adjust your routine intelligently. You learn how to support your strengths and manage your weaknesses. You become more strategic. You act with purpose rather than randomness. This is how people grow from effort to mastery. Another benefit of tracking is accountability. When you document your actions, even privately, you raise your personal standards. You feel responsible for your choices. You begin paying attention to the details of your day. You notice when you waste time. You notice when you delay tasks. You notice when you break promises. Awareness creates responsibility. Responsibility creates change. You can only improve what you can measure, and you can only measure what you track. Consistency with small goals also builds emotional stability. Every completed goal, no matter how simple, generates a sense of order in your mind. That order reduces anxiety. It reduces stress. It replaces chaos with structure. Life feels more manageable when the mind has direction. People often search for peace through external changes, but peace often begins with internal alignment. When your day has purpose, your emotions follow. When your actions match your intentions, your mind grows calm. There will be days when you do not feel like completing your small goal. Those are the days that matter most. Following through during difficulty strengthens your discipline faster than following through during ease. A person's character is built when they act despite resistance. A small task done on a hard day carries more value than a big task done on an easy day. This truth develops resilience. Resilience grows when you repeatedly prove that your actions do not depend on your feelings. This is the essence of self-mastery. Small daily goals also help you avoid self-judgment. People often criticize themselves for not achieving large results quickly. They feel behind. They feel inadequate. They compare themselves to others. Small daily goals shift the focus from pressure to process. They remind you that progress requires patience. You no longer judge yourself by outcomes alone. You judge yourself by effort. This creates emotional balance. Improvement becomes something you enjoy instead of something you fear. Over time, the impact becomes visible. Your productivity increases. Your discipline becomes more natural. Your confidence grows. You start trusting your ability to shape your life. You feel more grounded and steady. You no longer rush through your day with scattered energy. You become intentional with your time. You develop the habit of doing things even when they are not enjoyable. This is the core of personal growth. The person who can act without relying on comfort is the person who will always rise. When you commit to small daily goals, you begin understanding a deeper truth about human behavior. Success is not about intensity. It is about consistency. Anyone can work hard for one day. Few people can work steadily for months or years. Anyone can set a large goal. Few people can honor a small one daily. Anyone can dream big. Few people can act small. But those small actions shape a future that big dreams alone cannot create. Many people avoid small goals because they seem insignificant. They want results quickly. They want visible change. They want dramatic progress. But dramatic progress is built on ordinary days. The person who values small efforts eventually achieves extraordinary results. The person who waits for perfect conditions remains stuck. Small goals remove waiting. They place the power back into your hands. By tracking your progress, you also create a personal history of discipline. This history becomes your evidence during hard times. When doubt appears, you can look back and see the truth. You have taken action. You have been committed. You have moved forward. This evidence gives you strength. It silences the inner voice that tries to convince you that you cannot change. It replaces self-doubt with self-respect. Self-respect is earned through action. Every small goal you complete adds to that respect. You feel proud of yourself not because of external achievement, but because you honored your commitment. That feeling cannot be given to you by anyone else. It comes from within. It becomes one of the strongest forces pushing you forward. Once you begin respecting your own effort, you stop sabotaging your progress. You stop abandoning your goals. You stop believing that change is out of reach. Small daily goals also teach patience. You learn to value long-term reward over temporary comfort. You develop the ability to wait without losing momentum. You understand that progress often happens quietly. There will be days where you do not feel improvement, but the habit continues shaping you internally. Just because the result is not visible does not mean the work is wasted. Each day builds a layer. Each layer strengthens your foundation. One day the result becomes visible, and people call you disciplined. But the truth is simple. You committed to small goals when nobody was watching. As you continue this practice, your relationship with effort transforms. You no longer view discipline as something painful. You view it as something empowering. You recognize that a day with purposeful action feels better than a day filled with avoidance. You begin craving progress. You seek out small challenges. You enjoy the feeling of completion. This shift is the true mark of inner growth. You become someone who acts because it is part of your identity, not because you feel pressured. Small daily goals will eventually lead to larger goals without force. Once you build enough discipline, you naturally desire bigger challenges. You feel ready because you have trained your mind. You have built consistency. You have strengthened your habits. You have learned how to act regardless of emotion. Larger goals no longer intimidate you. They become extensions of your daily routine. This is how extraordinary achievement develops from ordinary effort. Tracking your progress will also reveal something important. You will notice that the days you struggle the most often become the days that teach you the most. When you push through resistance, you discover strength you did not know you had. Over time, you begin to appreciate struggle. You stop running from it. You use it. You understand that challenge is part of growth. This perspective is rooted in Stoic wisdom. Stoics believed in controlling what can be controlled and releasing what cannot. Daily goals allow you to focus on what is within your control. Tracking allows you to see the impact of those choices. Your journey with small daily goals is not about perfection. It is about persistence. There will be days you fall short. There will be days you miss tasks. This is part of the process. What matters is your ability to return to the routine quickly. The person who returns after a setback will always outperform the person who quits because they slipped. Forgive your mistakes, correct your direction, continue your small goals. This is discipline in its purest form. Over weeks and months, you will feel a shift inside. You will notice that your mind becomes calmer because you are living with intention. You will notice that your confidence increases because you prove your commitment every day. You will notice that your time feels more meaningful because you are using it wisely. You will notice that your goals no longer feel out of reach because you are meeting them one small step at a time. This chapter serves as the foundation for everything that follows. Daily goals build discipline. Tracking builds awareness. Together they create a structure strong enough to support the life you want to build. By committing to small daily actions and recording your progress, you take control of your growth. You stop depending on random bursts of motivation. You start living with clarity and purpose. You become someone who honors their word. You become someone who makes steady progress. You become someone capable of achieving anything through consistent action. The power to change your life does not begin with massive effort. It begins with one small daily goal completed with commitment and recorded with honesty. From that moment on, you build the discipline that will carry you through any challenge ahead. This is the path of long-term growth. This is how transformation begins. This is how confidence is rebuilt. Through small actions repeated with intention, tracked with honesty, and strengthened with consistency. Chapter 2. Design a morning routine that triggers immediate focused action. A morning routine that triggers immediate focused action begins with the understanding that the first moments of the day shape the direction of everything that follows. When the mind is fresh, the body rested, and the world quiet, you have a short window of influence where your choices carry more weight than they will later in the day. These early decisions set the tone for your behavior, your attitude, your discipline, and your level of engagement with your responsibilities. Many people wake up each morning without structure, and that lack of structure creates confusion. Confusion leads to delayed action, and delayed action becomes a pattern. A morning routine solves this by removing unpredictability. It gives the mind a path to follow, so you can step into action before doubt or distraction take over. The goal of a powerful morning routine is not perfection or complexity. It is clarity. You want to know exactly what to do the moment you wake up, without debate or hesitation. When you remove the need to think about what comes next, you remove the risk of falling into old habits. A planned routine creates momentum, and momentum creates focus. The routine you build should be simple enough to repeat daily and meaningful enough to guide you into a state of action. When you wake up and follow a predictable sequence, your mind begins preparing itself to work before you even start. This internal preparation becomes one of the strongest tools you have for building discipline. A strong morning routine begins with ownership over your first decision of the day. That initial decision shapes your entire mindset. When you choose to act early, you train your mind to follow your direction instead of reacting to impulses. The moment you get out of bed with purpose, you create a small victory that signals to your brain that movement is the default. This sense of deliberate movement matters because most people lose the first hour of their day to distraction, noise, and comfort. Reclaiming this hour gives you an advantage that compounds over time. It shifts your focus away from passive behavior and toward intentional action. The next part of designing a productive morning is creating an environment that supports action. If your surroundings are chaotic, your mind feels scattered. When your space is clean and organized, your thoughts settle. A structured environment reduces the mental effort needed to begin your day. Keep only the items you need in the places you use them. Prepare small things the night before so your morning begins with simplicity instead of noise. Simple adjustments such as setting out your clothes, organizing your workspace, or placing your journal where you can reach it immediately reduce friction. Every moment saved reduces the chance of hesitation. A productive morning also requires a short grounding ritual that strengthens your mental discipline. This can be as simple as a few minutes of intentional breathing, a quick stretch, or a short written reflection. The purpose is not to relax, but to direct your attention. A calm and centered mind can make cleaner decisions. When you take a moment to breathe, you bring your awareness into the present. When you stretch, your body wakes up with energy. When you write a few sentences, your thoughts stop wandering. Grounding yourself allows you to step into the day with clarity instead of chaos. Once you have grounded yourself, you need a clear action that signals the start of your productive day. This is the task that activates your focus. It should be simple enough to start immediately and important enough to matter. This task serves as the trigger that shifts your mind from waking mode to working mode. When you complete an intentional task early, you strengthen the belief that you are someone who acts quickly. This identity is crucial. People who take action early in the day carry that sense of urgency throughout the rest of their tasks. You want a routine that replaces delay with direction. A meaningful morning routine also requires avoiding early distractions. When you expose your mind to noise too soon, your attention becomes scattered. This includes social media, entertainment, and anything that pulls you into passive consumption. When you begin your day by reacting to external inputs, you hand control of your focus to forces that do not care about your priorities. Protect your first moments like they are the foundation of your progress. When you create boundaries around your morning, you reclaim control over your mind. One of the most important elements of a powerful morning routine is setting a single objective for the day. This objective gives your mind something to move toward. Without it, your energy becomes divided. When you identify the most important action of your day in the morning, you bring your attention to what matters. You begin acting with purpose instead of drifting. Your morning routine should always end with a clear direction, so you know exactly what needs to be accomplished first. Another essential part of a morning routine that triggers immediate action is physical activation. Movement wakes up the body and sharpens the mind. You do not need long workouts or intense training. Simple, consistent movement is enough. Even a few minutes of activity increases blood flow, clears mental fog, and strengthens discipline. When you move your body early, you send a message to yourself that comfort does not control you. This creates a deeper sense of capability that follows you into your responsibilities. Your morning routine should also include a short moment of gratitude or acknowledgement. This helps you begin the day with awareness. When you recognize something good, even something small, you shift your mind into a state of clarity. This is not about positivity, it is about perspective. A clear perspective helps you act with patience instead of frustration. When you begin your morning with presence and intention, you reduce the emotional friction that often leads to procrastination. The structure of your morning is important, but the intention behind it is what makes it powerful. You want to create a mindset that encourages decisive action. Your routine is a tool that trains your brain to take control. If you repeat the same actions daily, your brain begins to associate your mornings with focus and discipline. This automatic association reduces the effort needed to begin tasks. With time, starting your day with action becomes your natural rhythm. Consistency is the force that gives a morning routine its power. A routine performed once or twice has little effect. A routine performed daily becomes the foundation of your identity. This is where discipline grows. When you repeat something long enough, your mind stops resisting it. You stop battling your habits. You start moving into your day with ease. Consistency creates internal stability, and internal stability becomes the root of strong daily action. A productive morning routine is not something you perfect overnight. It develops through small adjustments and steady practice. You will refine it as you learn how your mind and body respond. You may remove things that do not serve you and add things that strengthen your clarity. What matters is that your routine remains intentional. It should reflect the person you want to become. Every part of it should support forward movement. Your morning routine is not just about productivity. It is about control. It is about stepping into your day with authority. It is about creating a pattern of action that shapes your long-term growth. The first hour of your day influences every hour that follows. When you design that hour with purpose, you gain momentum that carries you through challenges. You become more deliberate. You make decisions with confidence. You approach tasks with a stronger mind. The real purpose of a morning routine is to eliminate unnecessary decision-making and replace it with habits that support discipline. When your morning is structured, you save mental energy for the tasks that matter. You reduce overwhelm. You reduce self-doubt. You step into action rather than reacting to whatever gets your attention. This is the path to a life built on intentional effort. A morning routine is one of the most direct ways to build self-mastery. It forces you to take charge of your time. It teaches you to act when your mind still wants comfort. It shows you that discipline is something you practice, not something you wait for. When you rise with intention and begin with action, you build a foundation of strength that follows you the entire day. Designing a morning routine that triggers immediate focused action is a commitment to living with clarity. It is a promise to yourself that you will not drift. It is a practice that shapes your mind into a tool of discipline. When you begin your day with purpose, you gain a sense of direction that cannot be taken by circumstances. You become someone who acts early, acts clearly, and acts with intention. This routine becomes the anchor of your growth. It builds confidence through repetition. It sharpens your focus through consistency. It creates momentum through early action. Each day begins with structure. Each action builds discipline. Each morning becomes a quiet declaration that you are committed to your progress. When you build a morning routine that supports action, you strengthen the foundation for everything you want to achieve. Chapter 3. Break tasks into tiny steps and start without perfection. Breaking tasks into tiny steps and starting without perfection is one of the most effective ways to remove the internal resistance that makes people delay action. A task that feels heavy or complicated often looks that way only because the mind is trying to process it as one large responsibility. When everything is grouped together, the weight becomes overwhelming. The mind immediately imagines the effort, the time, the uncertainty, and the possibility of doing something wrong. This creates hesitation, and hesitation grows into avoidance. Reducing tasks into small, clear steps removes that pressure. A small step does not intimidate you. A small step does not demand courage. A small step simply asks for movement, and movement becomes the doorway to progress. People often underestimate how strongly the mind resists anything that appears uncertain. The larger the task, the more vague it seems. The more vague it seems, the more complicated it feels. Breaking something into small pieces brings clarity. It turns confusion into direction. It creates definition where there used to be fear. When you know the next tiny action, the path becomes visible. You no longer wonder where to begin because the beginning is simple. This simplicity encourages action. Even when motivation is low, a small step can still be completed without requiring emotional energy. The idea of starting without perfection is equally important. Many people delay progress not because they lack ability, but because they want their first attempt to be flawless. They believe starting small somehow diminishes the value of their work or makes them look unprepared. Perfection creates unnecessary pressure. It traps you in a cycle of planning, revising, and imagining instead of doing. When you let go of perfection, you give yourself permission to begin. You accept that progress comes through refinement, not through flawless attempts. Every skill improves through repetition, not through hesitation. When you break a task down, your brain receives direction. For example, instead of approaching a project as a single responsibility, you divide it into small, clear pieces such as preparing materials, outlining ideas, completing one section, and refining the work later. Each piece feels manageable. The mind handles simplicity better than complexity. Once you start with the first small piece, momentum naturally follows. Action becomes easier because the mind learns to move forward step by step instead of feeling paralyzed by the full picture. One of the most empowering parts of using small steps is the sense of accomplishment you create. Each completed step signals progress. This repeated experience of completion strengthens your confidence and increases your willingness to continue. Small achievements build internal belief. When you see daily movement, even small movement, you begin trusting that you can complete anything you commit to. This trust becomes a powerful form of motivation. It pushes you forward without needing external pressure. Another benefit of tiny steps is that they allow you to overcome the emotional intensity that large tasks create. Instead of facing a mountain of work, you face a small piece that requires little stress. This lowers your anxiety. When the emotional barrier decreases, the mental barrier decreases with it. You become less likely to procrastinate because the task no longer feels threatening. This shift alone can transform your productivity. You move from avoidance to engagement, and engagement brings clarity. Starting without perfection also teaches humility. It reminds you that improvement depends on participation. You cannot refine something that does not exist. You cannot grow a skill you do not practice. You cannot correct a path you have not taken. When you start imperfectly, you gain valuable experience. You see what works and what does not. You learn through direct engagement. This makes the process more honest. You stop hiding behind preparation and begin creating real progress. A task broken into small steps also reduces the amount of mental energy you use. Every time you think about a large task, you consume energy imagining how you will complete it. This drains your focus before you even begin. When your attention is drained, starting becomes harder. A small step requires very little thought. You save mental energy for the actual work instead of wasting it on anticipation. This makes your workflow smoother and more stable. Building the habit of breaking tasks down trains your mind to approach challenges with logic instead of emotion. You stop reacting to tasks with fear or frustration. You analyze them carefully. You identify their parts. You choose a point where you can take immediate action. This mindset strengthens your discipline. You become skilled at simplifying problems rather than surrendering to them. With time, your mind becomes more structured. You naturally divide big responsibilities into manageable actions without overthinking. Another advantage of tiny steps is that they help you adjust quickly when something goes wrong. When you work in small pieces, mistakes are smaller, corrections are easier. Adjustments take less time. You stay flexible. You avoid the discouragement that comes from having to redo large amounts of work. This protects your confidence. It teaches resilience. You learn that failure is not the end but part of the path. Working without perfection also frees creativity. Perfection demands that everything look a certain way from the start. It restricts experimentation. It limits curiosity. When you release perfection, you give yourself freedom to try new methods, explore ideas, and adapt. This allows you to discover better paths. Many people only realize their best work after allowing themselves to explore imperfect attempts first. Imperfection opens doors that perfection blocks. Breaking tasks into tiny steps also helps you build consistency. When a step is small, it is easier to repeat. You are more likely to stay consistent because the effort feels manageable. Consistency is the foundation of long-term achievement. A small action repeated often produces more progress than a large action completed occasionally. This steady rhythm builds discipline and shapes your character. You become someone who reliably takes action every day. Another important benefit is that tiny steps reduce the emotional drama that people often attach to work. When you break tasks down, you stop identifying the task as something huge or life-changing. You see it as a sequence of actions. This perspective makes the task feel neutral. Neutral tasks are easier to begin. When emotion is removed, clarity becomes stronger. This calm approach leads to cleaner decisions and better results. Starting without perfection also improves your relationship with effort. You begin understanding that effort is a process, not a performance. You stop trying to impress others and start focusing on progress. This shift creates inner peace. It reduces the fear of judgment. It frees you from the need to appear flawless. You work because you value growth, not because you need approval. The commitment to tiny steps also helps you face tasks you have avoided for years. Many people carry the weight of unfinished responsibilities because they believe they must complete them in one session. This belief creates constant pressure. When you break that task into small parts, the pressure dissolves. The task becomes approachable. You can finally move it forward. This brings relief. It frees mental space. It reduces the guilt of carrying unfinished work. Another powerful aspect of small actions is the control they give you. You can handle a tiny step even on your worst days. You can show up even when you feel tired, discouraged, or overwhelmed. This reliability strengthens your identity. You learn that you can always take some form of action. This sense of control reduces helplessness. It creates stability in your daily life. You begin trusting your ability to make progress under any circumstances. Starting without perfection also protects you from the trap of overthinking. When you feel pressure to be perfect, you analyze every move. Overthinking slows your progress. It traps you in your mind. When you allow yourself to start imperfectly, you break that pattern. You shift from thinking to doing. You move quickly. You gain experience instead of piling up assumptions. This shift builds confidence because action provides real feedback. Breaking tasks into small steps shapes your discipline in a way few other habits can. It trains your mind to see the world through the lens of possibility rather than pressure. It teaches you that progress is always available in some form. It shows you that challenges can be simplified. It helps you stay grounded. It keeps your momentum alive. The strength of this approach lies in its simplicity. You do not need special skills. You do not need unusual talent. You need only the willingness to divide your tasks and begin without waiting for ideal conditions. Every step you complete becomes part of your growth. Every action moves you closer to your goals. Every small effort shapes your future. This chapter reflects a mindset that separates those who remain stuck from those who move forward. When you break your tasks into tiny steps and embrace imperfect beginnings, you develop the internal discipline needed for long-term success. You build a life driven by consistent action rather than fear. You become someone who starts, improves, adapts, and completes. Step by step, you construct the discipline that will guide every future achievement. Chapter 4. Eliminate distractions by setting boundaries for your time. Eliminating distractions by setting boundaries for your time begins with understanding how your attention is shaped by your environment, your habits, and the expectations of the people around you. If your time is not protected, it will be claimed by anything that demands your attention. Many people struggle with productivity not because they lack ambition, but because they live without clear limits. Distractions grow in any space that has no defined structure. When you allow interruptions to enter your day freely, your mind becomes scattered. A scattered mind cannot commit fully to the work in front of it. Creating boundaries gives your focus a place to rest. It separates what matters from what interferes. It allows you to direct your energy instead of reacting to every impulse or request. The first step in eliminating distractions is recognizing the sources that disrupt you most. For some people, the distraction comes from digital noise. For others, it comes from unplanned conversations, cluttered environments, or responsibilities that invade their time without permission. You need to identify what consistently pulls you away from meaningful work. Awareness brings clarity. Once you name the distractions, you regain the ability to control them. This control gives you the power to shape a day that supports focus instead of fragmentation. Setting boundaries is a discipline that protects your attention. Boundaries are simply rules that direct when, how, and where your time will be used. Without these rules, your day becomes vulnerable to interruptions. When you create boundaries, you give yourself permission to focus deeply. You no longer feel guilty for protecting your time because you understand that productivity cannot survive constant interference. Boundaries are not about avoiding people or isolating yourself. They are about creating structure so you can bring your full effort to what matters most. Your most valuable periods of focus must be blocked from external noise. This means assigning specific hours where you will not respond to messages, take calls, or engage in unnecessary conversations. These uninterrupted hours train your mind to work with greater intensity. They build mental endurance. They also teach others how to treat your time. When people see that you protect your focus, they begin respecting your boundaries automatically. You define the standard, and the world responds to that standard. A powerful boundary for eliminating distractions is controlling your relationship with your devices. Phones, notifications, and digital platforms are designed to capture your attention. If you do not set firm limits, you will be pulled into a cycle of constant checking and reacting. Turning off notifications, placing your phone in another room during deep work, or blocking distracting apps during specific times can dramatically increase your focus. These small rules protect your mind from constant interruptions. When your devices stop controlling your attention, you gain mental freedom. Another boundary that strengthens focus is defining the purpose of each part of your day. When time has a purpose, distractions have less space to enter. If your morning is dedicated to important tasks, you commit fully to those tasks. If your afternoon is reserved for communication or planning, you follow that structure. This organized flow reduces mental clutter. Your mind understands what belongs where. When time has structure, your attention becomes steadier. You no longer drift from one task to another without direction. An important part of setting boundaries is learning to say no when something does not align with your priorities. Many distractions come disguised as requests, invitations, or people needing your attention. If you say yes to everything, you give away your time without intention. Saying no is not an act of rejection. It is an act of self-respect. You are choosing to protect your energy. You are choosing to honor the commitments that matter most. Each time you decline a distraction, you strengthen your discipline. You take ownership of your life instead of letting others shape it for you. Creating a physical space that supports focus is another layer of boundaries. If your environment is cluttered, your mind absorbs that chaos. When your surroundings are clean and purposeful, your thoughts settle. Remove unnecessary items from your workspace. Keep only what supports your task. This small change reduces visual distractions. It allows your attention to stay centered. A focused environment creates a focused mind. Time boundaries also require emotional limits. Many distractions come from internal habits rather than external sources. Overthinking, worry, and shifting attention too frequently steal your time. Training your mind to stay with one task until completion strengthens your discipline. This requires intention. Each time you notice your attention drifting, you gently return it to your work. With practice, your mind becomes more steady. You gain control over your thoughts instead of allowing them to scatter. Emotional boundaries teach you that focus is a habit, not a moment of luck. Boundaries also help you protect your energy from those who expect instant access to you. Not every message requires an immediate response. Not every request is urgent. You can create specific times for communication. When you respond on your schedule instead of reacting instantly, you reclaim hours that would otherwise disappear. This boundary reduces stress. It gives you space to think clearly. It allows you to focus without interruption. Maintaining boundaries requires clarity about what matters most to you. When you know your priorities, distractions lose their appeal. You understand what deserves your attention and what does not. This clarity gives you strength when faced with temptations that promise quick satisfaction but steal long-term progress. Your priorities serve as a compass that guides you away from distraction and back to meaningful work. Another important practice is scheduling breaks deliberately. This may sound unrelated to eliminating distractions, but it is essential. When you work without rest, your focus weakens. Fatigue makes distractions more appealing. Planned breaks give your mind a chance to reset. They prevent burnout. They allow you to return to your tasks with renewed energy. Breaks are not escapes. They are investments in your attention. Setting boundaries also involves being honest with yourself about how you use your time. Many people believe they are working more than they actually are because small distractions fill the gaps without being noticed. When you track your hours, you gain a clear picture of how much time you lose to passive habits. This honesty is uncomfortable but transformative. It reveals patterns you can change. It empowers you to create boundaries that correct those patterns. Eliminating distractions is not about creating a rigid life. It is about building a life where your attention serves your goals instead of scattering across meaningless activities. When you protect your time, you create space for deep work, meaningful growth, and consistent progress. You build discipline through structure. You develop confidence by honoring your priorities. You gain control over your day instead of being controlled by interruptions. Boundaries also teach others how to approach you. When people know you protect your focus, they stop expecting immediate responses or last-minute involvement. They learn to respect your time. This creates healthier interactions and reduces stress. You no longer feel pulled in multiple directions because your boundaries guide the flow of your commitments. Your ability to eliminate distractions is a reflection of your commitment to your own growth. Each boundary you set strengthens your character. It shows that your time is valuable. It shows that your goals matter. It shows that you are willing to take responsibility for your life. As you practice this consistently, you feel more centered. You move through your day with intention. You complete tasks with greater clarity. You build momentum through sustained focus. Distractions lose their power when your time is guarded with purpose. You begin waking each day knowing that your hours will not be wasted by the demands of others or by unplanned impulses. You shape your environment, your habits, and your interactions to support concentration. This creates a stable foundation for everything you want to achieve. Setting boundaries for your time is not a restriction. It is a form of freedom. It frees you from chaos. It frees you from scattered attention. It frees you from the pressure of constant interruptions. It gives you the space to think, create, and act with strength. This freedom becomes one of the most valuable parts of your personal growth. It shapes the way you work, the way you think, and the way you live. The more you practice eliminating distractions through boundaries, the more powerful your focus becomes. You develop a clear mind, steady habits, and intentional actions. You transform your relationship with time. You begin to live with purpose instead of reacting to everything around you. This is how strong discipline is built. This is how meaningful work is completed. This is how you take control of your life at the deepest level. Chapter 5. Use commitment devices to automate progress and avoid excuses. Using commitment devices to automate progress and avoid excuses begins with understanding that willpower alone is unreliable. There are days when motivation feels strong and taking an action seems effortless. But there are also days when the mind resists even simple tasks, when energy feels low and when excuses come naturally. Relying on emotion to drive action creates inconsistency. Commitment devices remove that instability by creating conditions that make action the default instead of the exception. They provide structure that forces you to follow through even when you do not feel like it. This removes the need to negotiate with yourself every day. Instead of deciding whether to act, you place systems around you that make acting easier than avoiding the task. A commitment device is anything that ties you to a behavior by increasing the cost of skipping it or increasing the reward for completing it. It can be a rule you create, an agreement you make, a tool you use, or a system you design. The purpose is to reduce the space where excuses can grow. Excuses thrive in open space. They disappear when the environment makes avoidance difficult. When you create a commitment device, you are shaping your surroundings, routines, and accountability in a way that supports the person you want to become. One example of a commitment device is linking your behavior to a scheduled outcome. When something is on your calendar, it becomes a part of your day instead of a vague intention. People often skip responsibilities because they remain in their mind as loose ideas rather than fixed commitments. Putting a specific task at a specific time removes decision-making. You act because the plan exists. This reduces hesitation and increases consistency. Scheduling gives structure to your goals and denies excuses room to influence your choices. Another powerful commitment device is involving another person in your goals. When you keep your goals private, you carry the responsibility alone. This makes it easier to change your mind or delay tasks without consequence. When someone else knows what you are committed to, you feel accountable in a deeper way. Even a simple message to a trusted friend or partner, stating what you intend to do, can create a sense of responsibility that pushes you to act. You want your actions to align with your words. This creates psychological pressure that discourages excuses. Accountability is not about pleasing others. It is about strengthening your integrity through external reinforcement. Physical commitment devices are also highly effective. These involve altering your environment so that you naturally make better decisions. For example, placing the tools you need for your task where they are easy to reach removes friction. Putting distracting items out of sight reduces temptations. Preparing your materials the night before saves you from spending mental energy in the morning when you are vulnerable to avoidance. The goal is to make the desired action feel simple. When the environment works in your favor, progress happens naturally. Digital tools can serve as commitment devices as well. Timers, habit tracking apps, website blockers, and automated reminders can guide your behavior when your mind tries to drift. These tools keep you on track by reducing the freedom to wander without direction. When you use digital limitations, you remove the opportunity to go off course. This is not about restricting your freedom, it is about protecting your priorities. Financial commitment devices can be extremely powerful because they attach real consequences to your actions. When you invest money in something that supports your goals, such as a class, a program, or a membership, you feel compelled to follow through. people tend to value what they pay for. When you make a financial commitment, you create an incentive to show up and use what you purchased. This increases discipline and reduces the tendency to procrastinate. Money becomes a form of accountability that strengthens your resolve. Another type of commitment device is creating a rule that governs your choices. For example, deciding never to skip 2 days in a row creates a simple boundary that keeps you consistent. Deciding that you will complete a small task immediately when you think about it removes the chance for delay. These rules transform your actions from optional to expected. The mind works better with clear limits than with vague intentions. Rules reduce decision fatigue and protect you from your own impulses. Commitment devices also help you avoid emotional excuses. Many people allow their feelings to decide their actions. When you feel tired, you skip tasks. When you feel stressed, you delay important work. When you feel unprepared, you wait for the right moment. Commitment devices bypass emotion by creating obligation. You act because the system requires it, not because you feel perfectly ready. This builds emotional resilience and trains you to follow through, even when conditions are not ideal. Another important purpose of commitment devices is protecting you from your future self. Often, the version of you that sets goals is not the same version that must execute them. You may feel inspired at night and tired in the morning. You may feel motivated on Sunday and overwhelmed on Wednesday. Commitment devices allow the motivated version of you to create boundaries that the future version must honor. This bridges the gap between intention and action. It is a way of taking care of your future self by making choices today that simplify tomorrow. Using commitment devices also helps you build identity-based discipline. When you consistently follow systems that keep you on track, you begin to see yourself as someone who follows through. This identity strengthens your behavior. You no longer rely on force, you rely on your established systems. The more you act within these systems, the stronger your confidence becomes. You trust your ability to maintain habits because your actions prove it repeatedly. Another advantage is that commitment devices reduce the temptation to negotiate with yourself. When you do not have systems in place, you waste time debating whether to start. This mental negotiation drains energy and increases the chance of avoidance. A commitment device removes negotiation completely. You act because the plan already exists, and deviating from the plan feels uncomfortable. Structure replaces debate. Habit replaces hesitation. Using commitment devices teaches you the importance of thinking ahead. You begin to anticipate moments of weakness instead of being surprised by them. You prepare solutions before your excuses appear. This proactive approach strengthens your discipline. You learn to manage your behavior with intention instead of reacting to impulses. This sense of control is empowering and creates stability in your daily life. Another powerful commitment device is creating a reward system for yourself. When you attach a small reward to completing a task, you reinforce positive behavior. This reward does not have to be something large. Even small, meaningful rewards can motivate you. They make action satisfying and build positive associations with discipline. Over time, the reward becomes less important because the habit becomes part of your identity. But in the beginning, rewards can provide helpful structure. You can also use social commitment devices such as joining a group, participating in a challenge, or tracking progress publicly. These create a sense of belonging that encourages consistent action. When you know others are engaged in similar goals, you feel supported. When you share your progress, you stay accountable. The sense of connection helps you stay committed, even during difficult moments. The real power of commitment devices is that they remove the possibility of acting only when you feel ready. They anchor your behavior to systems rather than emotions. They make progress automatic instead of inconsistent. They protect you from your own excuses and guide you forward even when your mind resists. Commitment devices do not make life rigid. They create a level of freedom that comes from knowing your actions are supported by structure. They reduce stress because you do not have to rely on willpower alone. They build confidence because you know you will follow through. They transform your habits by aligning your environment, your schedule, and your behavior with your goals. Using commitment devices is an act of self-respect. It is a way of telling yourself that your goals matter enough to structure your life around them. It shows that you are willing to take full responsibility for your growth. It proves that you are committed not just in words but in actions. When you use commitment devices consistently, you eliminate excuses, increase productivity, and create a life built on intentional progress. Chapter 6. Measure daily wins and adjust actions based on results. Measuring daily wins and adjusting your actions based on results begins with the understanding that progress is not something you notice only in big achievements. Real improvement happens quietly in the small choices you make each day. Many people underestimate the power of daily evaluation because they believe results should appear dramatically. When outcomes take longer than expected, they become discouraged. This discouragement often comes from not recognizing the small victories that slowly build momentum. Daily wins exist in every day, but you only see them if you are intentional about looking for them. When you measure these wins, you gain evidence that your actions matter. You begin to see a pattern in your behavior. You become more aware of what helps you move forward and what pulls you backward. This awareness makes your growth real instead of vague. Measuring daily wins creates a relationship between your actions and your outcomes. Without measurement, your efforts become guesswork. You can spend days working hard and still feel like nothing is changing because you have no record of what is happening. This creates confusion. Confusion leads to frustration. Frustration leads to inconsistency. Measuring your wins removes that uncertainty. It gives you a clear picture of what you accomplished and what needs to be improved. When you write down even small progress, you reinforce your discipline. You learn to appreciate effort instead of waiting for perfection. A daily win can be anything that moves you closer to your goals. It does not have to be dramatic. It can be a small step completed with intention. It can be completing a task you avoided. It can be staying focused during a period where you normally drift. It can be handling a challenge with patience. When you recognize these wins, you strengthen your confidence. You teach your mind to value progress in all forms. This makes discipline easier because you begin associating effort with reward. The reward may not always be visible results, but the knowledge that you honored your commitments. Writing down your daily wins is a powerful practice. The act of recording them forces you to reflect. Reflection sharpens awareness. You start noticing patterns in your behavior. You see how certain choices influence your day. You begin understanding the conditions that help you perform at your best. This information becomes a guide. It teaches you how to structure your time, manage your energy, and maintain consistency. Without reflection, you move through your days repeating the same mistakes without realizing it. Adjusting actions based on results requires honesty. You must be willing to look at the patterns you discover and respond with changes. Some people measure their wins but refuse to adjust their approach. They cling to methods that are not working out of habit or fear. True growth requires flexibility. You adjust because you value progress more than comfort. You change your approach because you want your actions to align with your goals. Adjustment is not a sign of failure, it is a sign of intelligence. It proves you are paying attention to what works. When you measure your wins daily, you develop a clearer understanding of your strengths. You see what you do well. You see the areas where your discipline is strong. Recognizing strengths builds confidence. Confidence increases your willingness to take on more challenges. This creates upward momentum. You expand your capacity because you trust your habits. Identifying strengths is just as important as identifying weaknesses. You can repeat what works. You can rely on it. You can build around it. Equally important is recognizing what is not working. When you examine your days honestly, you begin noticing patterns of avoidance, distraction, or inefficiency. Instead of ignoring these patterns, you adjust your strategies. This prevents you from repeating ineffective behavior. It also prevents you from wasting time on actions that do not support your growth. You learn to replace habits that slow you down with habits that move you forward. This adjustment process strengthens your discipline. It builds responsibility. You take ownership of your behavior instead of letting old patterns control you. Another important part of measuring daily wins is the effect it has on your emotional stability. Many people judge themselves harshly for lack of instant results. This emotional pressure makes discipline harder. When you focus on daily wins, you build a healthier mindset. You begin appreciating small progress. You learn to separate effort from outcome. You stop expecting immediate transformation and start valuing consistency. This mindset brings calmness. It reduces stress. It creates stability in your growth process. Adjusting your actions based on results also teaches resilience. You learn that setbacks are not signs of failure but signals for improvement. When a day does not go well, you look at it with curiosity instead of frustration. You ask yourself what caused the difficulty. You ask how you can respond differently tomorrow. This mindset builds strength. You stop fearing mistakes because you know you can learn from them. You stop avoiding challenges because you know you can adjust your approach. Daily measurement also helps you prioritize effectively. When you reflect on your day, you see which actions created the greatest impact. You learn which tasks truly matter. You learn which activities drain your energy without contributing to your goals. This clarity allows you to refine your focus. You stop wasting time on unnecessary tasks. You start investing your energy into the actions that bring real progress. Over time, this adjustment brings remarkable improvement. Another value of measuring daily wins is that it teaches discipline in small increments. You do not need to transform your life in one day. You only need to show up today. When you measure and adjust daily, you build discipline through repetition. Each day becomes a chance to improve. Each day becomes a chance to strengthen your habits. This creates continuous growth. You do not rely on occasional bursts of motivation. You rely on steady, intentional action. Adjusting your actions also helps you stay aligned with your long-term goals. It is easy to drift without noticing it. When you evaluate your day, you catch yourself drifting early. You correct your direction. This prevents months of unproductive effort. It keeps you connected to what you truly want. It reminds you why you began your journey. This alignment strengthens purpose. Purpose strengthens discipline. Measuring daily wins builds a deeper connection between you and your goals. You begin seeing your goals not as distant possibilities, but as active processes happening in real time. Each small victory brings your goals closer. This perspective reduces the feeling of overwhelm. You no longer feel lost in the distance. You feel engaged in the present. Progress becomes something you experience, not something you wait for. As you adjust based on what you learn each day, you become more efficient. You no longer fight the same battles repeatedly. You refine your behavior. You eliminate unnecessary steps. You streamline your routines. You reduce effort while increasing results. This improvement builds confidence and strengthens your discipline. You begin moving with greater clarity. Your days become more productive, with less stress. Another important part of measuring daily wins is the emotional reward it creates. When you acknowledge your efforts, you reinforce your self-esteem. You give yourself credit for trying. This strengthens your belief in your ability to grow. People often forget to acknowledge their progress. They move from one task to the next without ever recognizing their effort. This robs them of motivation. Measuring wins, but restores that motivation. It gives you the emotional satisfaction of knowing you are moving forward. Adjusting actions based on results also teaches humility. You learn that success is not rigid. It requires flexibility. It requires the willingness to change direction. When you accept this, you stop clinging to ineffective methods. You become adaptable. This adaptability becomes one of your strengths. It allows you to overcome obstacles that would stop others. You learn to approach challenges with intelligence instead of stubbornness. Daily measurement sharpens your awareness. You begin noticing details that used to slip by unnoticed. You see how your mood affects your productivity. You see how your habits influence your decisions. You see how your choices shape your outcomes. This awareness becomes one of your most powerful tools. It allows you to make better decisions each day. Over time, these small adjustments create significant transformation. Measuring daily wins and adjusting your actions is one of the most practical ways to improve your life. It keeps you grounded. It keeps you disciplined. It keeps you connected to your goals. It trains your mind to value effort, reflect honestly, and adapt intelligently. This combination creates lasting growth. You become the kind of person who learns every day, improves every day, and moves forward every day. Through this habit, you build a life shaped by intention, awareness, and continuous progress. Chapter 7. Schedule focused work blocks and protect them every day. Scheduling focused work blocks and protecting them every day begins with the realization that your attention is one of your most valuable resources. When you divide your day without intention, your attention becomes scattered and your energy leaks into tasks that do not support your goals. Focused work blocks create structure in your day by giving your mind a defined period where it commits fully to one purpose. This structure strengthens and discipline, increases efficiency, and brings your long-term goals within reach. Without protected time windows for deep work, distractions take control, and your progress becomes inconsistent. Many people never reach their full potential because they allow interruptions, impulses, and noise to dictate how they use their time. Focused blocks reverse this pattern by giving you ownership over your day. A focused work block is simply a dedicated period where you commit to a single task without allowing anything else to interfere. This commitment teaches your mind to stay present. It removes the habit of switching from one responsibility to another without finishing what you started. When you schedule these blocks deliberately, you send a message to yourself that your goals deserve uninterrupted attention. This message strengthens your sense of purpose and encourages consistency. Your daily routine becomes anchored by these periods of concentrated effort. The first step in creating focused work blocks is choosing the number of blocks you need each day. The number does not have to be large. Even 1 or 2 focused sessions can transform your productivity if you treat them with seriousness. The length of each block should match your ability to concentrate without strain. Some people can maintain focus for an hour, while others work best in shorter intervals. What matters is finding a rhythm that allows you to perform with clarity and strength. A block that is too long creates fatigue. A block that is too short breaks your momentum. A balanced duration supports sustainable effort. Once you define the length and number of blocks, you schedule them at times when your energy is naturally higher. Every person has specific hours where their mind feels sharper. For some, this happens early in the morning. For others, it happens midday. Identifying these windows allows you to align your focused work with your strongest hours. This optimization increases the quality of your work and reduces the strain of forcing yourself to focus when your mind is tired. When your work blocks match your peak energy periods, you produce your best results with less effort. Protecting your work blocks is just as important as scheduling them. Once a block is set, you treat it like a commitment that cannot be negotiated. This requires setting firm boundaries. During this period, You do not check messages, browse random content, or allow unnecessary interruptions. You silence notifications, close unrelated tabs, and communicate to those around you that you are unavailable. This boundary teaches others to respect your time, but more importantly, it teaches you to honor your commitments. Protecting your focus becomes a form of self-respect. You begin valuing your time with greater seriousness. Another essential part of protecting work blocks is preparing for them in advance. When you gather your materials beforehand, you remove the need to scramble once the session starts. This preparation reduces friction and makes it easier to enter a state of concentration. When everything you need is ready, your mind transitions smoothly into the task. Small moments of preparation make a significant difference in your ability to begin and maintain focus. You build a habit of entering work blocks with clarity instead of hesitation. Focused work blocks also require removing potential distractions from your environment. This includes both digital and physical interruptions. Putting your phone in another room, closing unnecessary apps, and keeping your workspace clean reduces the chance of breaking your concentration. Every distraction, no matter how small, resets your focus. When you eliminate these distractions before you begin, you protect your mental energy. You create a space where your mind can fully engage with the task at hand. This increases the depth and quality of your work. Consistency is what gives focused work blocks their transformative power. A single day of deep work feels productive, but a month of protected work blocks reshapes your habits. It teaches your brain to expect periods of deep concentration. Over time, your ability to focus improves naturally. You no longer struggle to stay present. Your mind becomes trained to enter work mode during your scheduled blocks. This mental conditioning makes discipline easier and more automatic. You rely less on motivation and more on established routine. Focused work blocks also teach you discipline through structure. When you sit down to work at a scheduled time, you are training yourself to follow through, even when you do not feel like it. This builds emotional resilience. You learn that action is not dependent on your mood. You create a stable environment where progress continues even on difficult days. This stability becomes one of your greatest strengths because it keeps you moving forward regardless of external circumstances. Another valuable benefit of focused work blocks is that they reduce wasted time. When you allow your day to unfold without structure, you spend more time transitioning between tasks. You drift between responsibilities. You lose minutes to distractions that grow into hours. Focused blocks eliminate this drift by giving your mind clear direction. When you know exactly what to work on and when to work on it, you reduce confusion. You reduce hesitation. You reduce the mental cost of switching tasks. This increases your efficiency and frees more time for rest and recovery. Work blocks also improve the quality of your results. When your attention is divided, your work becomes shallow. You make more mistakes. You take longer to complete tasks. When your attention is concentrated, you work with precision. You think more clearly. You make better decisions. You produce work that reflects your true potential. Deep concentration is one of the most powerful forces for high-quality performance. Focused work blocks create the conditions necessary for this level of performance. Protecting your work blocks also strengthens your ability to prioritize. When you have limited periods for deep work, you must choose tasks that matter most. This forces you to distinguish between important responsibilities and minor distractions. You learn to allocate your time intentionally. This habit improves your decision-making and ensures that your effort supports your long-term goals. You no longer waste your energy on tasks that offer little value. You invest your focus in what truly matters. Focused work blocks can also reduce stress. When you know that you have protected time to complete your most important tasks, you stop feeling overwhelmed. You no longer worry about finding time later. This reduces mental tension and gives you peace of mind. You approach your day with clarity instead of anxiety. The structure of your schedule provides stability and calm. When your responsibilities are broken into clear blocks, life feels more manageable. Another strength of work blocks is that they help you separate work from rest. Many people blur these lines. They work while distracted and rest while feeling guilty about not working. This creates constant stress and prevents genuine relaxation. Focused work blocks allow you to give your full attention during work and full rest during breaks. You improve both productivity and recovery. You create balance instead of chaos. Protecting your work blocks requires commitment. It means refusing to drift into conversations that can wait. It means resisting the temptation to check your phone out of habit. It means being disciplined enough to stay with one task, even when your mind seeks easier distractions. Each time you protect your focus, you strengthen your discipline. You prove to yourself that your goals matter more than impulsive behavior. Over time, your focused work blocks become one of the most important rituals in your life. They become a foundation you rely on. They create a rhythm that brings order to your day. They help you build meaningful progress on projects that once felt overwhelming. The more you practice protecting these blocks, the more naturally your mind adapts to them. You no longer force yourself into focus. Focus becomes a familiar space that your mind enters with ease. Scheduling and protecting work blocks ultimately transforms your relationship with time. You stop reacting to your day and start directing it. You stop living in scattered effort and start operating with precision. You stop letting distractions pull you away from your goals. You become someone who values discipline, structure, and clarity. These qualities create lasting progress and build the strength needed for long-term success. Focused work blocks give your goals the attention they deserve. They teach your mind to stay present and productive. They protect your energy and elevate your performance. Through consistent practice, these blocks shape a disciplined lifestyle where every day moves you closer to the future you want to create. Chapter 8. Reward consistent effort with simple, meaningful incentives regularly. Rewarding consistent effort with simple, meaningful incentives regularly begins with understanding how the human mind responds to progress. Discipline becomes easier to maintain when the effort is acknowledged and reinforced. Many people believe that reward is unnecessary or that it weakens discipline, but the opposite is true. When used intentionally, rewards strengthen your resolve. They remind you that your actions matter. They create positive feedback loops that encourage continued effort. A disciplined life is built not only on structure and accountability, but also on the emotional reinforcement that comes from recognizing your dedication. Meaningful incentives are powerful because they turn the process of self-improvement into something you look forward to rather than something you must force yourself through. Rewarding yourself is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign that you understand human psychology. Progress requires consistency, and consistency requires fuel. That fuel comes from acknowledging your actions in a way that feels satisfying. When you complete tasks day after day without any recognition, your motivation can fade. The mind begins to feel that effort is endless and unrewarded. Over time, this causes burnout and discouragement. Introducing small incentives prevents this decline. These rewards do not need to be extravagant. They simply need to hold meaning for you. The meaning is what gives the reward its power. Simple incentives work best because they are sustainable. They do not create dependency, and they do not overshadow the value of the work itself. A small treat, a short break, a relaxing activity, or a moment of self-appreciation can be enough to reinforce positive behavior. The purpose is not to distract yourself from responsibility, but to recognize that you are honoring your commitments. This recognition builds self-respect. When you respect your own effort, you naturally want to continue showing up. Meaningful incentives also teach you to appreciate the journey of improvement. Many people focus only on the final goal and ignore the steps required to get there. This narrow focus creates pressure. It makes the journey feel long and difficult. When you reward yourself for showing up consistently, you shift your attention to the daily wins that keep you moving forward. You begin valuing the process rather than waiting for distant outcomes. This mindset reduces stress and increases your willingness to continue even on challenging days. Rewarding consistent effort also strengthens emotional balance. Improvement often requires pushing through discomfort, resisting distractions, and choosing discipline over impulse. These choices can feel heavy if you never acknowledge them. A meaningful incentive lightens this emotional weight. It gives you a moment to breathe. It reminds you that discipline does not have to be harsh or punishing. You can pursue growth while still treating yourself with kindness. This balance prevents resentment toward your goals. It keeps your motivation steady. Another important aspect of rewarding your effort is that it builds a healthier relationship with yourself. Many people criticize themselves more than they acknowledge their progress. This internal imbalance leads to self-doubt. When you intentionally celebrate your consistency, you replace criticism with encouragement. You begin seeing yourself as someone who is capable. This identity strengthens your discipline because you no longer fight against your self-image. You act in alignment with who you believe yourself to be. Simple, meaningful incentives also make long-term goals feel more achievable. When a goal takes months or years to accomplish, waiting for the final result can feel discouraging. Rewards break the journey into smaller cycles of satisfaction. They give you something to look forward to repeatedly. This keeps your mind engaged. It prevents you from giving up when progress feels slow. A small incentive can provide enough emotional lift to carry you through another day of effort. Rewards can also help you rebuild discipline after difficult periods. Everyone experiences days where motivation is low or progress feels blocked. When you honor your effort, even during these moments, you create emotional resilience. You teach yourself that growth continues despite setbacks. This keeps your mindset grounded and prevents guilt from taking control. Rewarding effort does not mean ignoring areas for improvement. It means recognizing that you are still trying. This recognition strengthens your ability to return the next day with clarity. Another reason meaningful incentives work is that they bring intentional joy into your routine. Discipline does not mean removing joy from your life. It means choosing joy that aligns with your values. When your incentives reflect what matters to you, you reinforce your priorities. For example, a peaceful walk, a favorite meal, a moment of reflection, or time spent on a hobby can serve as reminders that your life is more than a checklist of tasks. These moments create balance. They give your mind space to recharge, so your discipline can remain strong. Rewarding effort regularly also teaches the mind to associate positive emotions with disciplined behavior. This association is powerful because it reduces resistance. Instead of viewing tasks as burdens, you begin viewing them as opportunities to earn something satisfying. This psychological shift increases your commitment. You become more willing to take action. You build momentum because each completed task brings a sense of fulfillment. Over time, the reward becomes less about the incentive and more about the internal satisfaction of staying consistent. Meaningful incentives must be personal. What motivates one person may mean nothing to another. The reward should be something that feels significant to you. It may be time spent alone, a simple leisure activity, or a break you genuinely enjoy. Because the reward is aligned with your preferences, it becomes powerful. You look forward to it. It gives you a reason to push through moments of hesitation. This anticipation increases your drive and reduces the power of excuses. Another benefit of rewarding effort is that it helps you mark milestones. Without acknowledgement, your days can blend together. You might forget how far you have come. Incentives create moments of recognition that break monotony. They remind you that consistency is an achievement. This reflection strengthens your long-term commitment. You realize that every day you showed up contributed to your growth. These moments keep you grounded and motivated. Rewarding consistent effort also reinforces your goals by creating emotional meaning behind them. When you feel good about your effort, your goals become more personal. You develop a stronger emotional bond with them. This connection makes it harder to abandon your progress. You want to continue because your goals represent your growth, not just a list of tasks. The incentive becomes a symbolic part of your journey, reminding you that each step deserves acknowledgement. Simple rewards also encourage mindfulness. When you pause to appreciate your effort, you learn to be present. You create a moment of awareness that deepens your connection to your actions. This mindfulness helps you recognize patterns, understand your habits, and make better decisions. It creates a sense of calm that enhances your discipline. A mindful reward becomes more than a treat. It becomes a tool for reflection and self-awareness. Rewarding effort regularly supports long-term sustainability. Without emotional reinforcement, discipline eventually weakens. You may push yourself for weeks or months, but without appreciation, burnout becomes likely. Incentives act as emotional rest stops along the journey. They maintain your energy and help you avoid exhaustion. Recognition becomes part of your routine. It ensures that your commitment remains strong over time instead of fading under pressure. Another strength of meaningful incentives is that they give you something to celebrate even when results are slow. Not every day brings visible progress. Some days feel like you are repeating the same actions without change. Rewards help you stay motivated during these periods. They prevent discouragement by focusing your attention on the one thing that matters most. You showed up. This consistency becomes your greatest advantage, and the reward keeps you moving through the quiet moments of growth. Rewarding effort also strengthens your internal motivation. External motivation can be helpful, but it fades quickly. Internal motivation grows slowly through meaningful experiences. When you reward yourself intentionally, you create emotional memories connected to discipline. Over time, these memories create internal drive. You rely less on external reminders and more on your personal commitment. You begin taking action because you value the feeling of progress, not because someone expects it. Meaningful incentives also encourage you to set higher standards. When you see your effort appreciated, you build confidence. This confidence pushes you to aim for larger goals. You begin trusting your ability to grow consistently. The reward acts as proof that your discipline is real. This creates momentum that carries you forward. You stop doubting yourself and start believing in your potential. Rewarding consistent effort with simple, meaningful incentives regularly becomes a foundational part of your growth. It keeps your mind balanced, your discipline strong, and your motivation steady. It turns the long journey of self-improvement into something sustainable and emotionally supportive. You build a life where progress is recognized, where effort is valued, and where consistency is celebrated. Through this practice, you strengthen both your discipline and your self-respect. You become someone who honors their hard work, reinforces their habits, and builds progress day by day with clarity and purpose. Chapter 9. Challenge limiting beliefs. By taking one brave action today. Challenging limiting beliefs by taking one brave action today begins with recognizing how deeply your thoughts shape your behavior. Many people underestimate the power of their internal dialogue. They live inside beliefs that were formed long ago, beliefs created by fear, past failures, or the expectations of others. These beliefs often remain unchallenged, repeating silently in the background until they become part of a person's identity. When you accept these thoughts without questioning them, they dictate your choices. They convince you that certain actions are too risky, certain goals are too ambitious, and certain opportunities are reserved for others. Limiting beliefs shrink your world until you operate within narrow boundaries. The only way to break these boundaries is through action specifically, an action that contradicts the belief itself. Taking one brave action today does not mean doing something extreme. It means picking something that your fear has been protecting for too long. This action becomes a direct challenge to the voice in your mind that tells you to stay small. When you push against that voice, even in a small way, you begin weakening its influence. Limiting beliefs survive only through avoidance. They are strengthened every time you choose comfort over growth. The moment you act despite fear, you prove that the belief is not absolute. This creates a shift in your thinking. You begin realizing that the limits you obeyed were not real barriers but internal stories. Brave action also shows you that fear is often distorted. Fear magnifies possibilities without considering the other side. It focuses on what might go wrong while ignoring what might go right. When you take action, fear loses control because reality replaces imagination. Instead of picturing disaster, you experience movement. Progress replaces paralysis. This is why a single brave action carries so much power. It breaks the cycle of fear before it has time to tighten its hold on your mind. Limiting beliefs often hide in familiar routines. You may believe you are not capable, not ready, or not good enough. These beliefs create predictable patterns where you avoid discomfort, but growth happens only when you step outside the familiar. A brave action challenges the comfort zone and forces your mind to adapt. When you do something that makes you uncomfortable but aligns with your goals, you begin reshaping your identity. You teach yourself that you are stronger than your emotions, and this lesson becomes the foundation of lasting confidence. Challenging limiting beliefs also requires honesty. You must be willing to acknowledge the thoughts that hold you back. Many people pretend their hesitation comes from lack of time or lack of resources, but often the real reason is fear. Fear of failure, fear of embarrassment, fear of being judged, fear of losing control. When you identify the belief behind the hesitation, you gain clarity. You know what must be challenged. Honesty gives you power because it removes confusion. You no longer act in darkness. You know exactly what you are fighting. Taking one brave action forces you to confront the belief directly. For example, if you believe you cannot speak up, the brave action might be expressing your opinion. If you believe you cannot learn something new, the action might be starting a small lesson. If you believe you are not capable of consistency, the action might be committing to a simple daily habit. The action does not need to be perfect. It only needs to be real. Action is what changes the mind, not endless preparation. One of the most important aspects of challenging limiting beliefs is understanding that beliefs are learned. You were not born with them. They were shaped by experiences, comments, and interpretations that created emotional imprints. What is learned can be unlearned. A belief can feel powerful, but it is not fixed. It can be replaced with something stronger. Taking one brave action becomes the first step in rewriting that belief. You give your mind new evidence. You show yourself that change is possible. With each new action, the old belief loses strength. Brave action also builds trust. Many people struggle with discipline because they do not trust themselves. They make promises but break them. They set goals but abandon them. This creates internal doubt. Without self-trust, even small tasks feel heavy. When you take one brave action, you begin rebuilding that trust. You show yourself that you are willing to follow through. This builds a new internal reputation, one where your mind sees you as someone who acts, not someone who avoids. Challenging beliefs is not about forcing yourself to be fearless. It is about acting while fear exists. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the willingness to move through it. Fear may not disappear immediately, but your relationship with it changes. Fear becomes something you manage rather than something that controls you. Each time you face a fear, you grow more comfortable with uncertainty. This is how emotional resilience develops. Taking one brave action today also changes your energy. When you do something that aligns with your potential, you feel alive, you feel capable, you feel connected to your goals. This spark of energy is powerful because it moves you forward with momentum. Momentum grows when repeated. One brave action today leads to another tomorrow. Before long, your limiting beliefs fade because your actions contradict them repeatedly. Challenging beliefs through action also develops discipline. It teaches you to choose growth even when comfort seems easier. Discipline is not only about productivity, it is about decision-making. When you choose the action that supports your goals over the action that supports your fear, you strengthen your discipline. You become someone who moves toward challenge instead of running from it. This shift in behavior transforms you internally. Another powerful aspect of this process is that brave actions often reveal strengths you were unaware of. Limiting beliefs hide your potential by convincing you that you cannot do more. When you try something new, you discover abilities that were waiting to be developed. Many people have skills they never explore because they accept their limits as fact. A single brave action can uncover possibilities you did not know existed. This discovery boosts confidence and expands your vision for your future. Challenging limiting beliefs also teaches patience. Beliefs formed over years will not change overnight, but every action you take weakens the belief. You need to allow yourself space to grow. You may not feel different after one attempt, but the process has begun. The mind adjusts slowly but steadily. With each brave decision, you build a new story about who you are. That story becomes your identity. Identity shapes behavior. Behavior shapes your life. Another important part of taking brave action is detaching from the need for perfection. Many limiting beliefs thrive on the fear of doing something imperfectly. When you take action without demanding perfection, you free yourself from unrealistic expectations. You allow yourself to learn through experience. You understand that progress is more valuable than flawless execution. This mindset reduces pressure and increases your willingness to act again. Challenging limiting beliefs also changes the way you handle failure. When you see failure as part of growth rather than something to fear, it loses its power. You begin interpreting setbacks as information, not judgment. You analyze what went wrong and adjust your approach. This resilience makes you stronger. You stop viewing failure as proof of your limitations and start seeing it as a stepping stone to improvement. Taking one brave action today also strengthens mental clarity. When you challenge a belief through direct action, you stop overthinking. Overthinking often strengthens limiting beliefs by feeding them with exaggerated fears. Action interrupts this cycle. It brings clarity through experience. You no longer guess what will happen, you see it. This clarity helps you make better decisions and reduces the emotional weight of uncertainty. Brave action teaches you that growth begins in the present, not the future. Many people wait for the right moment to change. They wait for confidence, inspiration, or a perfect plan. But waiting gives limiting beliefs more time to deepen. Taking action today breaks the pattern. It shows your mind that change begins now, not someday. This shift in thinking brings urgency and purpose to your growth. When you challenge limiting beliefs repeatedly, you expand your comfort zone. What once felt intimidating becomes familiar. What once felt impossible becomes manageable. Your mind adapts to new levels of challenge. You build emotional strength. You gain psychological flexibility. You become capable of more than you ever believed. This expansion creates a life where opportunities grow instead of shrink. Taking one brave action today is not just a task. It is a declaration that you are no longer willing to be held back by fear or outdated beliefs. It is a statement that your growth matters. It is a decision to choose courage over hesitation. Each brave step becomes part of a larger transformation. You become someone who faces challenges directly, acts with intention, and shapes their future with conscious effort. By challenging limiting beliefs through daily brave actions, you create a life guided by possibility rather than fear. You build confidence through evidence. You strengthen discipline through practice. You grow through experience instead of imagination. And slowly, step by step, you become the person you are always capable of becoming, stronger, clearer, more courageous, and deeply committed to your own potential. Chapter 10. Build resilience through daily reflection, learning, and disciplined repetition. Building resilience through daily reflection, learning, and disciplined repetition begins with understanding that strength is not created in a single moment of determination, but through consistent engagement with your inner world. Resilience is the ability to face challenges without collapsing under pressure, to adapt when situations become difficult, and to continue moving forward even when your progress feels slow. This kind of strength develops only through deliberate practice. It grows from a mindset that seeks understanding instead of avoidance and improvement instead of comfort. Many people hope resilience will appear naturally during difficult times, but resilience must be built long before those challenges arrive. Daily reflection, steady learning, and repeated disciplined action create the mental foundation that allows you to remain grounded through adversity. Reflection is the first pillar of resilience because it brings clarity. When you take time each day to examine your thoughts, reactions, and behaviors, you gain insight into who you are becoming. Reflection allows you to see not only your actions but the reasons behind them. Without reflection, habits form blindly. You repeat patterns without understanding their impact. Reflection reveals the choices that strengthen you and the ones that weaken you. It gives you a chance to correct your direction before small mistakes turn into larger setbacks. It teaches you to observe your life with honesty, which is essential for growth. Daily reflection also reduces emotional overwhelm. When experiences accumulate without processing, the mind becomes cluttered. This clutter increases stress and decreases clarity. Taking time to review your day allows you to release tension and gain perspective. You notice what went well and what challenged you. You recognize moments where you reacted impulsively and moments where you remained composed. This awareness strengthens emotional control. Resilient people are not free from emotion, they are skilled at navigating it. Reflection teaches you how to manage your reactions instead of being controlled by them. Learning is the second pillar of resilience, because growth requires understanding. Each day brings new information, new experiences, and new lessons. You become stronger when you turn these experiences into knowledge. Learning does not always come from books or structured materials. It often comes from the challenges you face, the conversations you have, and the mistakes you make. Every experience has something to teach you if you take the time to examine it. Learning builds adaptability. It teaches you to adjust your approach when something does not work. It expands your abilities and sharpens your thinking. When you commit to continuous learning, you prepare yourself to handle a wider range of situations with confidence. A resilient person learns from difficulties instead of resenting them. When something goes wrong, you can ask yourself what the situation is trying to teach you. This perspective transforms obstacles into opportunities. It reduces frustration and creates foresight. You begin to see patterns that help you navigate challenges more effectively. Learning also keeps you from repeating the same mistakes. When you understand why something happened, you can prevent it from happening again. This understanding saves time, reduces stress, and strengthens your confidence in your ability to handle life. Disciplined repetition is the third pillar because resilience is built through consistent action. You cannot become strong by acting only when you feel inspired. You become strong by repeating behaviors that reinforce your growth. Repetition builds skill. Repetition builds habits. Repetition builds identity. When you repeatedly choose discipline over comfort, you train your mind to act with intention. You learn to push through resistance. You develop the ability to stay committed even when progress is slow. This ability becomes a powerful source of resilience because it teaches you to rely on your habits rather than your emotions. Disciplined repetition also builds mental endurance. Each time you complete a task, despite difficulty, you strengthen your ability to handle future challenges. You show yourself that you can act even when your energy is low. This evidence becomes part of your internal strength. Resilience grows when you realize that you are capable of more than your mind initially believes. Repetition gives you this realization repeatedly until it becomes part of who you are. Combining reflection, learning, and repetition creates a network of habits that support resilience. Reflection helps you understand yourself deeply. Learning expands your capacity, and repetition strengthens your discipline. When these three practices work together, your mind becomes stable, flexible, and strong. You feel less shaken by unexpected events because you trust your ability to respond thoughtfully. You recover more quickly from setbacks because you understand how to adjust your approach. You stay committed to your goals because your habits carry you forward even when motivation dips. Daily reflection also helps you identify patterns that either support resilience or weaken it. You begin noticing moments when you avoided responsibility, reacted emotionally, or allowed distractions to take control. Instead of ignoring these moments, you examine them. This examination gives you the opportunity to change. Resilience requires self-awareness. You cannot change what you refuse to acknowledge. Reflection gives you the honesty needed to grow without shame. It allows you to correct yourself gently but consistently. Learning also strengthens your adaptability. Resilient people understand that life changes constantly. They know that plans may shift, obstacles may arise, and unexpected situations may appear. Because of this, they value flexibility. Learning new skills, new methods, and new perspectives prepares you for change. The more you learn, the more tools you have to navigate uncertainty. This preparation reduces fear because you trust your ability to adapt. You become more confident in your ability to solve problems. This confidence is a major component of resilience. Disciplined repetition also teaches patience. Growth is not immediate. Habits take time to form. Skills take time to develop. Goals take time to achieve. When you repeat your disciplined actions daily, you learn to value long-term progress over immediate satisfaction. This patience reduces frustration. It keeps you steady during slow periods. It reminds you that consistency matters more than speed. Resilience often depends on your ability to stay patient during difficult moments. Repetition builds that ability. Resilience also requires a strong internal foundation. You must know why you are working, why you are improving, and why discipline matters. Daily reflection strengthens this foundation by reminding you of your values and intentions. When your actions align with your values, you feel grounded, you feel clear. This alignment makes your discipline more meaningful. It transforms your actions from obligations into choices. Choices strengthen resilience because they come from your sense of purpose. Learning reinforces this purpose by expanding your understanding of what is possible. As you grow, your goals evolve. You begin seeing opportunities where you once saw limitations. This expanded vision increases your motivation. It helps you remain resilient when conditions are difficult because you understand the bigger picture. Learning also builds a sense of curiosity. Curious people recover more quickly from setbacks because they see difficulties as puzzles rather than threats. Repetition strengthens this foundation through action. When you repeat disciplined behaviors, you reinforce your purpose with evidence. You prove to yourself that you are committed. This evidence becomes comforting during challenging times. You know you have a history of showing up. This history becomes part of your resilience because it strengthens your belief in your ability to continue. Daily reflection also encourages emotional maturity. You learn to separate temporary feelings from meaningful decisions. You understand that emotions fluctuate and do not always represent the truth. Reflection teaches you to process your emotions instead of reacting impulsively. It gives you space to understand your inner experiences. This understanding makes you more stable. Emotional stability supports resilience because it allows you to stay grounded during stress. Learning builds cognitive resilience. You improve your problem-solving skills, decision-making abilities, and understanding of yourself. When you learn consistently, you grow mentally stronger. This mental strength helps you stay steady during difficult times. You understand that challenges can be overcome through strategy and patience. You approach problems with logic instead of panic. Disciplined repetition builds physical and behavioral resilience. Your body becomes accustomed to consistent effort. Your habits become predictable and strong. Your actions become reliable, regardless of your mood. This reliability protects you from falling into cycles of inconsistency. It helps you push through obstacles with steady effort. Reflection, learning, and repetition also build self-respect. When you take time to understand your life honestly, invest in your growth, and act with discipline, you build a deeper sense of worth. This worth strengthens resilience because you no longer tolerate behaviors that weaken you. You make choices that protect your growth and reject habits that pull you backward. Finally, building resilience through these practices transforms the way you approach life. Challenges become opportunities to improve. Setbacks become lessons. Effort becomes a part of your identity. You begin living with a sense of grounded confidence. You trust your ability to move forward through difficulty. This trust becomes the core of resilience. Through daily reflection, continuous learning, and consistent disciplined repetition, you shape a strong, capable, adaptable version of yourself, one who can face life with clarity, strength, and unwavering resolve.